श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिनि नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have been discussing from the last and final essay from this book Bhakti Aloka by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which describes about the 6 favorable and 6 unfavorable things concerning bhakti. So in that we are discussing the final one, sato vrittehe, sadhu vritti, following in the footsteps of the acharyas. So how devotees should conduct their lives, how they are supposed to conduct their lives. So he is going to discuss. So in that we have been discussing. So he says that sadhus are of 2 types, the householders and the renunciants. So he says, in talking about how these two should conduct their lives, interestingly, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, even though in the just previous section he talks about some aspects of varnashrama should not be given up, they should be accepted, and we did have an elaborate discussion on that. I will not get into that. I have summarized it many times. Interestingly, after that he says that first I will tell about how the householders should conduct their lives, what kind of occupations, what kind of behavior and all that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, neither in this Bhakti Aloka, neither in this essay, nor in the whole book, nor in any of his writings, nor any of our acharyas, interestingly, seem to suggest that the devotees should conduct their lives based on the teachings of Dharma Shastras. There is no mention about it. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, one should follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers. So he says that how a householder should conduct his life should be learned from the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu towards his followers, which are mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. And that's all he says. So, and then he gives a series of instructions. He has compiled all the instructions that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives to his followers from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. This is a very, very exhaustive compilation, very useful compilation, very practical compilation actually. How householders should conduct their lives, how renunciants should conduct their lives. This one essay is a very powerful essay. Actually, literally, if you see, practically, most of what has been covered in the first 11 essays have been covered in this one essay only. So if this one essay is assimilated, then practically you can say that this is a summary of the whole book. And very beautifully, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has segregated these instructions for householders and renunciants. Even though some of the instructions, they overlap, they apply to householders and renunciants like. So we will, I will summarize what we have seen till now. We completed last week the instructions that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives to his householder disciples. And then we also started discussing about the instructions that he gives to his renunciate followers. So I will summarize the instructions that he has given to his householder disciples. So this is basically based on Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he says one should learn from the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hmm. And then he says that a householder should find a suitable wife. Hmm. He should certainly find a suitable wife, and he should learn to see the family members as servants of Krishna. So we were discussing last time. Not that a householder has to take care of his children, take care of his wife, because it is the duty of a husband and duty of a father according to the Varnashrama Dharma. Rather, he should take care of his family members because he sees them as servants of Krishna. So therefore, this is a different. This is a change of paradigm. So the paradigm of looking at this whole thing changes. He should accumulate wealth through pious means only. He should not accumulate wealth through impious means. And then he says that one should be educated at a proper age, but one should not study atheistic literatures. And then he says, sixth thing he says is, sixth instruction, Atiti Seva is very critical for householders. They should take care of the guests very, very nicely. They should see their guests also as guests of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of the deity who is the whose how he should see the house as the house of the deity, and any guests who come, they are guests of the Supreme Lord, and he should serve them very nicely. Then the seventh instruction that he gives is avoid duplicity in occupational and ordinary dealings with others. One should avoid duplicity just to earn more money. Then he says, it is the duty of a householder Vaishnava to take care of elderly members. So, this is very important. And then the ninth principle that he says is, don't be very eager for external renunciation. Renunciation should be cultivated internally. So, internal cultivation of renunciation is very critical. Don't be eager for external renunciation. He says this. Then the 10th principle that he says is, be duty bound to work for everyone's benefit. Even though a grahastha has his own family, his own wife, his own children, but a grahastha should not get so absorbed in me and mine. He should develop the mentality of working for everyone's benefit. And here he quotes this verse, Bharata bhumite haila manushya janmajar, janma sartaka kari karo paropakar. नाच गाओ भक्त संगे करे संकीर्तन कृष्ण नाम उपदेशी तारे सर्वजन, right, like that. Furthermore, go out and preach the value of chanting Krishna Nam, for by this process you will be able to deliver all fallen souls. So understanding that it is very natural for a grihastha to actually get absorbed in his own family, his own life, but rather a grihastha should be duty bound. He should feel that it is my duty to work for everyone's benefit and not be too absorbed in. So that will remove the bodily consumption more. So then the 11th principle that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says is avoid duplicitous association. One should avoid association of duplicitous people, means non-devotees, and devotee and persons who are who can say, you can say that who are sort of committed to a non-devotional value system. It's all duplicitous association. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogis, materialistic people. Then the 12th principle that he says is, it is very easy for a householder to become dependent on his source of livelihood. He may become dependent on his source of livelihood, but a householder should be very careful to cultivate dependence on the will of the Lord. So, Shunamata Ishwarera Adhina Samsar Swatantra Haite Shakti Nahika Kahar. Listen, dear Mother, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the whole world is under the control of the Lord. No one has the power to become independent. So one should cultivate this mood of dependence on the Supreme Lord. 13th principle that he says is, avoid association of non-devotees, women, and uxorious people, people who are committed to enjoying in this material world. One should carefully avoid those association. Asatsangat tyagayi vaishnavacha, stri sangi eka sadhu, Krishna abhakta ar. Then the 14th principle that he says is that accumulate wealth by prescribed occupations and not through sinful occupations. Okay. Just because we are making money and one may utilize it in Krishna's service does not mean that one can accumulate wealth by sinful means. One should accumulate wealth by prescribed means only. So then, as the 15th principle, he says, do not hanker for another person's wife or the association of prostitutes. No illicit sex. This is the 15th principle that he said. The 16th principle that he mentions is, a grihastha should not say that, I have so many household responsibilities. So therefore, my spiritual commitment I can afford to have a relaxed spiritual commitment. This is not true. So he says that a grahastha should also understand the importance of chanting a fixed number of rounds. He may gradually increase it, but should not have, one should not be unregulated in one's spiritual practice. Then that can become a bad habit. That is the 16th thing. So, and he gives the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu bale jana laksheshwara balikare pratidina lakshana ye grahana kare se janera nama ami bali laksheshwar tata bhiksha amarna yai anya ghar. So he says, do you know who is a laksheshwar? He is someone who chants 1 laksha or 100,000 holy names every day. That is about 64 rounds. I call such a person a Laksheshwara. I only take meals in that person's house, no one else. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's stance. So one may not be able to chant 64 rounds, but at least one should have a fixed commitment of chanting. And one should not relax it. So, and then the 17th principle that he says is that learn to carefully discriminate Vaishnavas from Smartas, even though they may be engaged similarly. So one should learn, one should not say, oh, he's very pious, he's so very, perfectly engaged in so many, religious activities, he must be a great devotee. Not necessarily. or one may be very very much able to quote quote Sanskrit verses left, right, center. So one may be chanting Vishnu Sahasranam, you know, and all those things, that doesn't matter. But if one should be mature enough to understand uh, who is a Vaishnava and who is a Smarta. And that discrimination is very important. Otherwise, you may see a person who may be very, very diligent, very clean, very pious, very proficient in Sanskrit, and ability to memorize verses and all that. But that does not mean he is a Vaishnava. He may be a Smarta. So therefore, one should be very one should develop this Vaishnava discrimination. One should learn to see the heart of the person, his surrender to Krishna, his love for Krishna. The 18th principle that he says is, there are three primary duties of a householder: Krishna Seva, Vaishnava Seva, Nirantara Krishna Nama Sankirtan. One should diligently serve the deity forms of the Lord, whom he should accept as the master of the house, and he should commit himself to serving the Vaishnavas, and he should commit himself to continuous Nama Sankirtan. Then he says about Vaishnava Seva, he says, do not invite too many Vaishnavas just for some prestige or something like that. So one should not invite too many Vaishnavas because one may not be able to properly serve them. It's not that you have your servants, you may have many servants and they may be serving. No, Vaishnava Seva is a privilege. One should personally do it. One cannot actually sort of depute it to one's servants. So Vaishnava Seva is a privilege. So one should not invite too many Vaishnavas just to show off one's wealth, and one should invite a few Vaishnavas whom one may be able to personally serve very nicely. Otherwise, by gathering many Vaishnavas may commit offenses. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bahuta sannyasi yadi aise ekathai sammana karite nare aparada pai. If all the sannyasis come together, it would not be possible for me to pay them proper respects. Therefore, I would be an offender. Like that. Then, as a 19th principle, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that a Grihastha Vaishnava should show mercy towards the poor and fallen. Dina daya kare ei sadhu swabhava hai. It is a characteristic of all saintly persons to be kind towards the poor and the fallen. Then, the 20th principle that he says is, yes, no doubt the responsibilities of being of householder life can sometimes be very difficult, because you never know what kind of children you will get. You never know whether your profession will be able to support your family or not. Professionally, whether you may be successful or not. None of these things, there are a lot of uncertainties in household life, which may cause a lot of anxiety and distress. But one should not desire to give up his body or commit suicide due to sentiment or anger, which means one should protect oneself from falling prey to extreme emotions. It is not very favorable. Because in extreme emotions, one will not be able to think of Krishna. Dehatyagadiya tasaba tamo dharma tamo rajo dharme krishnera na paiye marma. Acts such as suicide are influenced by the mode of ignorance, and in ignorance and passion, one cannot understand who Krishna is. So one should not slip into extreme emotions. One should be careful. Then he says, do not distinguish Vaishnavas based on their birth or varna, etc. So this is a Brahmin. Even devotees ask others, "Oh, you're from a Brahmin family," like that. And if you say yes, they are like they're very impressed. So, but this is actually not very good. What difference does it make? So one should not appreciate based on Viprad Vishadgunayutat Aravinda Nava Padaravinda Vimukat Swapacham Varishtam Manye Tadarpita Mana Vachane Hitartha Pranam Punati Sakulam Natu Borimana. Prahlad Maharaj says. So one should not Vaishnave Jati Buddhi, to see a Vaishnava based on their Jati or birth or Varna is actually hellish consciousness. So नीच जाति ना हे कृष्ण भजने अयोग्य सत्कुल विप्र ना हे भजने योग्य यही भजे से ही बड़ा अभक्त ही न चार कृष्ण भजने ना ही जाति कुलादि विचार नीच जाति ना हे कृष्ण भजने अयोग्य. One who is of a low family is not disqualified from practicing Krishna bhakti. Kula vipra na he bhajanera yogya. Just because one is born in a very high Brahmana family, he does not become automatically qualified for bhakti. Yei bhaje sei bada abhakta hina char. Whoever worships Krishna, he is very exalted. But a non-devotee is fallen and abominable. Krishna bhajane nahi jati kuladi vichar. In worship of Krishna, there is no consideration of one's status or family. Sannyasi pandita ganera karite garvanash. Nicha Shudra Dwara Karen Dharmera Prakash. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sannyasi Pandita Ganera Karite Garvanash. To vanquish the false pride of so-called renunciants and learned scholars, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread the religious principles through Shudras and other low-born personalities, like Srila Haridas Thakur, like that. The 22nd principle that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says for householders is one should not over endeavor for material gratification, and one should be satisfied with whatever comes without much difficulty. Then the 23rd principle that he says, whatever devotional limbs that a householder performs, he should learn to perform them with diligent attention. 24th principle is, do not disrespect the demigods of the Smarta Sampradaya. So the Smartas may worship many different types of demigods. We may not worship them, but we cannot disrespect them also. Then the 25th principle that he says is, work for the benefit of others even by giving up your own self-interest. So even though this principle we already saw, but he again repeats it, because for a grihastha, it is very natural to become very absorbed in one's own family, one's own wealth, one's own occupation. But as a duty, one should cultivate this mood of working for the benefit of others, even at the cost of giving up one's own self-interest. Apanara bhalahav yete jana dheke Sujana apana chadiyao para rakhe. Some people expect only benefits for themselves, but a gentleman cares for others while giving up his own interest. To become selfless is very critical. The 26th principle that he says is one should respect and worship Tulsi Maharani. Okay, that is a very important duty of a grihastha. संख्या नाम लैते ये स्थाने प्रभु वैसे तथाई रखे न तुलसी रे प्रभु पाशे तुलसी रे देखें जपे न संख्या नाम के भक्ति योगे तत्व के बुझीबे आन. Wherever the Lord sits to chant his rounds, he keeps Tulsi before him. He gazes at Tulsi while he chants his rounds. Who can understand the science of devotional service? Because Tulsi Maharani is very, very potent. And in her association to chant, she removes all kinds of obstacles. 27th principle for householders that he says is one should understand the value of, one should value the importance of devotion. And then 28th principle that he says is whatever social dealings that one may have to perform as a householder, one should do it while taking shelter of the holy names. Okay. This is important. And he gives the example of Kalidas. Mahabhagavat te hu sarala udar Krishna nama sankete cha chalaya vyavahar kautuke te ho yadi pashaka khelai Hare Krishna Krishna kari pashaka chalai. Kalidas was a very advanced devotee, yet he was simple and liberal. He would chant the holy name of Krishna while performing all his ordinary dealings. When he used to throw dice in jest, he would chant Hare Krishna while throwing the dice. So then, the 29th principle that he tells us, again he mentions this point, avoid corrupt earning and corrupt spending. One should avoid corrupt earning and corrupt spending, like accepting bribes and all those things he should not do. The 30th principle that he says is all Grihastha Vaishnavas should certainly accept a spiritual master who is full of devotion and pure character. A Grihastha Vaishnava should accept a spiritual master who is full of devotion and pure character. That is very important. Then 31st principle that he says is a Grihastha Vaishnava should very diligently avoid Vaishnava Parad. While on one side, serving the Vaishnavas is very important that he should cultivate. On the other hand, he should very diligently avoid Vaishnava Parad. So then, 32nd principle that he says is serving Vaishnavas by accepting their food remnants, food dust and foot wash. Bhaktapada Duliya Bhaktapada Jal Bhakta Bhukta Avasheshakti Namahabal. So it talks about the power of the foot wash, food remnants, food dust, like that. So then the 33rd principle that he says is how should a householder act until his anartha nivritti is accomplished? So he says, Mam bhajeta, tato bhajeta mam. He should, even though anarthas like lust, anger, envy, greed, delusion, and pride may affect the Grihastha Vaishnava, he should not give up worship of Krishna. Prita. Prita means, yes, anartha nivritti will not be immediate. Anartha nivritti will be gradual. So, he should not become overly depressed, thinking, oh, my anarthas are not going. He should not yield to depression. And the third principle that he says is Shraddhalu. He should not doubt the process. Is the process working for me? And Dhrida Nischaya. He should be more determined to give up gratification and those which trigger his sense gratification. He should be very determined to give that up. You know, that is Dhrida Nischaya, determination. And Garhayan. And whenever he succumbs to sense gratification, he should have sincere regret. Oh, I should not have, I should have been a little more careful. That does not mean it crosses the line and it becomes depression like that. Then the 34th principle that he says is one should accept Diksha. One should accept Diksha. 35th principle that he says is one should gradually aspire to acquire all the good qualities. And those good qualities of a sadhu can be acquired when he becomes Krishnaika Sharanam, when he becomes diligently surrendered to Krishna. Then the 36th principle that he gives, instruction that he gives the Grahastha Vaishnavas is they should be very eager to associate with advanced devotees. Eagerness to associate with advanced devotees. 37th principle that he says is one should give diligent attention to 5 potent limbs. A Grahastha Vaishnava should be very diligently attached to performing the 5 most potent limbs. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Mathuravasa Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevan Sakala Sadhana Sreshta Ei Pancha Anga Krishna Prema Janama Ei Panchera Alpa Sangha. These 5 are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. Then the 38th principle is one should gradually give up dependence on Vaidhi sadhana. When they cross the stage of Nishta and reach the stage of Ruchi, if they have been properly practicing the Gaudiya Vaishnava sadhana, then gradually that Vaidhi sadhana should mature into Raganuga sadhana. Raganuga is also sadhana bhakti only. It is not bhava bhakti or prema bhakti. So when one sees that qualification, one should gradually be willing to give up dependence on vidhi, but not prematurely. But one should not be overly attached to it even after developing those qualifications also. 39th principle that he says is a Grahastha Vaishnava should not independently endeavor for jnana or vairagya because they will make the heart hard. Naturally, by practice of bhakti, one develops jnana and vairagya. 40th principle that he says one should endeavor to gradually progress from Shraddha to Prema while diligently trying to understand where one is and how to get to the next stage. One should gradually move from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha, Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema, while very clearly understanding where one is right now and what one should do to move to the next stage. That is the 40th principle that he says. And 41st principle is a Grahastha Vaishnava should chant and diligently avoid offenses. 42nd principle, accept a householder should accept only pure devotional service that is not based on religious sentiments, but that is properly based on the conclusions of the Shastras. 43rd principle he says is a householder Vaishnava should give up lauding mentality and accept the mood of servitude. And the 44th principle that he says is he should model his character after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. They should be his role model. and he should desire Krishna in all his activities. This is the 45th principle that he gives. And 46th principle is he should not endeavor to gratify his senses. He may succumb to it due to his inability to tolerate his urges, but hmm, he should not overly endeavor for it. 47th principle. If home is favorable for devotional service, one should not give it up. We were discussing last time the Vaprastha ashram or sannyas ashram is not mandatory for devotees. 48th principle. But you may remain at home, but one should not get really attached to remaining at home. 49th principle. If home is unfavorable and if one has not developed detachment from home due to his practice of devotional service, then he can leave home. So one need not wait till detachment, but if clearly the home is unfavorable for devotional service, so then he can leave home, but not before he endeavors to fix the situation. So he should not try to escape responsibilities. If one is trying to escape responsibilities, and after leaving home also one will not accept any responsibility. Not that kind of irresponsible life. 50th principle. Again he mentions, but never commit namaparad. Like that. So 50 very important principles about how a grahastha should conduct his life. Then he talks about renunciants, how the renunciants should conduct their life. First, he says a renunciant should always chant the holy names. And the second principle, a renunciant should always beg and maintain oneself, and not he should not try to be sort of be maintained by others. That mood is very unfavorable for renunciants. Third very important thing, non-dependence on others. And if he depends on others, to the extent he depends on others, he will be neglected by Krishna. Principle, a renunciant should not have eagerness to eat palatable foodstuffs. Fifth principle, he should learn to satisfy the needs of his belly by eating simple foods. Sixth principle, one should not give in to the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals. So, starting with the tongue, actually, when one becomes very loose with his tongue in terms of eating, then very naturally one will not be able to tolerate the urges of his belly and genitals. Seventh principle, he should not engage himself in prajalpa, talking mundane subject matters. Eighth, he should not be attached to luxurious food. And ninth, he should not try to dress luxuriously. So dressing luxuriously means to attract others. The point about dressing luxuriously means to attract others' attention. So grihasthas, they may dress to attract, and renunciants, of course, renunciants in one sense, they may not, they have only one color dress. There is not much of variety there. But in today's day and age, social media is one kind of dress that renunciants may wear to attract. Of course, if it is purely for spreading the message of Krishna, it is very good. But if one uses this to actually mm, attract people to oneself, then it's considered to be, uh, it falls within the category of dressing luxuriously. 10th principle, do not expect honor, mm, and a sense of entitlement. Renunciation can give a very strong sense of entitlement if one is not careful, because naturally people will will express, you can say, respect, but we may start expecting it. See, a sense of entitlement. I am giving class, so people should respect me. Even in an organizational setup, especially in an organizational setup, when we speak, we say that I am speaking for my own purification. But after getting off the Vyasasana, we expect people should have gratitude for the service that I have rendered. In what service? You just said that you are speaking for your own purification. What service? What have we sacrificed for others personally? When there is no personal sacrifice, so this is a very important thing for renunciants, for anyone for that matter, not just renunciants. Sitting on the Vyasasana is not personal service for anyone. Sitting on the Vyasasana and speaking is for our own purification. One should not have a sense of entitlement that I have given a wonderful class and rendered such a wonderful service for you. No. Service means personal service. You personally serve someone, and in reciprocation, they may feel gratitude. But you are sitting on the Vyasasana and glorifying the Lord, they may feel gratitude. But that gratitude rightfully belongs to the Acharyas. That gratitude rightfully belongs to the Acharyas. We have sat on the Vyasasana and glorified Krishna. So we should be grateful. We cannot expect them to be grateful. One should not consider that service as a personal service and feel a sense of entitlement. I have rendered such service for you. In return, book my flight ticket. This is very sad, actually. One should not have such expectations. But one should offer respects to all. One should mentally keep serving and worshipping their lordships. That should be one's constant mental activity of serving and worshipping their lordships. 11th principle, he says, is renunciant should not live in his village with his relatives, because it is not the duty of a sannyasi to remain at his birthplace encircled by relatives. 12th principle, do not meet a king or a woman, because if you meet a king, then the king may give you a lot of privileges, and we may become like the king's personal priest, kind of. Then we may become the puppet in the hands of the king. No, this is not very good. Or a woman, for that matter. A renunciant should be very careful to remain faultless in the eyes of others, because the respect of the whole institution or the whole ashram is, every single renunciant actually has that responsibility. A small fault and people will criticize the whole ashram. So one should be very careful. 14th principle, a renunciant's mind should be absorbed in ecstatic love day and night. Of course, this is for someone at the level of bhava and prema. And such people, they eat and bathe simply out of habit. You know, like someone asked last time, are all these principles applicable to brahmacharis and even sannyasis? Not all sannyasis for that matter. Not necessarily. Some are some principles do apply. Some are just symptoms. But if not that, anyone who takes up sannyas may essentially be at the stage of bhava or prema. So those principles, definitely one should not say, you know, I will eat and bathe simply out of habit. No, that may not apply to everyone. And then he talks about the symptoms of a pseudo renunciant who, while wearing the dress of a renunciant, is attracted to the opposite sex and engages in enjoying with them by talking to them and things like that. A renunciant should very clearly appreciate detachment in the heart of a householder. He should not think, oh, I am a renunciant, I am a sannyasi, I am a brahmachari, give me respect. But sometimes, many times, you may observe that the grihasthas who are serving you, they may have a greater degree of detachment than what you have. We need not, we can fall at their feet. Ultimately, naham vipro na chanarapati napi vaishyo na shudro naham varni na chagrahapati na vanasto yatirva kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabder gopi bhartut padakamadayor dasadasantras. Ultimately, bhakti is not dependent on one's ashram. Wherever that devotion induced renunciation is there or detachment is there, we can fall at their feet. 17th principle, do not accept foods or goods from materialistic people. And yeah, so these are the 17 principles applicable for renunciants that we discussed. Yeah, it has been a long recap. I agree. I apologize. But what can I do? It's a long essay and a very important essay. So, and a very practical essay. So, I mean, how much ever we may recap, I think it's very, very practical. So, anyways, any quick discussion points, comments, questions based on what we have seen till now and whatever we have recapped today? If there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, then please go ahead. Yes, Mother Gail.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
Yeah, a couple things. One is I didn't catch number 16. Can you repeat that one?
Number 16 is detachment in the heart of a householder should be appreciated by a renunciant. He should not think that, oh, it should be appreciated. Appreciated.
Oh,
He should not think that, oh, I am in the dress of a renunciant. He is after all a householder. So he should appreciate my renunciation. But if you see, even though he may be a householder, but if he is showing exemplary detachment and attachment to Krishna, then even though one may be in the dress of a renunciant, he should not think twice before falling at the feet of such a Vaishnava and expressing his respects to such a person.
Okay. Yeah, also I didn't understand this part. Eating and what out of habit? Bathing, right? Bathing and eating out of habit. What was that?
Yeah. They eat and bathe simply out of habit. But of course, this is for those who have reached the stage of bhava and prema. Those who have completely overcome the influence of
You,
false ego. Such people, not ordinary people who may have, who are ordinary brahmacharis or even sannyasis for that
so
matter.
it means what? Because I mean, most or many of us also, I mean, it's our habit, right? to it means there's no attachment. I don't know. I'm not sure what it means.
Well, it's also a kind of sometimes they may not eat and they may not bathe also, but they are not bound by those rules. So this is not a rule for a renunciant. This is just a symptom of a genuine Babaji, that where he has transcended he has transcended the bodily platform in order to indicate that it is mentioned actually.
So he he won't he might not eat and bathe out of
A need,
a need.
yeah.
Uh-huh. If he does it, maybe I don't know, maybe to set an example for others.
Even that, yeah, that may be there, and he's not bound in that way also. When sometimes he is very much absorbed in serving his Lord out of spontaneous affection for the Lord, he may not be very much aware of setting the example for others also.
Okay, so the main point is that because he's so absorbed in his bhajan, he doesn't he's not that concern is not there for eating and
Yeah,
bathing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, okay. And just one last thing is I think you were saying earlier that a true renunciate, he is not going to say, okay, well, I am doing this service of preaching, I'm coming to your place to preach, book my ticket, right? But at the same time, yeah, that should not be his mentality, because for him, it's, he's only purifying himself. He has that mode. But at the same time, those who are hosting him,
Yeah,
they should kind of have that kind of desire, right? To
absolutely.
facilitate, yeah, as much as possible.
True. Yeah. They should
Oh,
feel that, oh, he is going to deliver Krishna to me. Um, uh, he's delivering Krishna to me, and I should be extremely grateful.
mhm.
And, but at the same time, the renunciant cannot feel like that. I
Right.
am delivering myself by speaking about Krishna, and
Mhm.
here are devotees who are so merciful to me that they are lending their ears and giving me an opportunity to speak about Krishna. And my gratitude to them is for giving me an opportunity to speak about Krishna. Nothing else. Not that he expects that they should feel very grateful that I am speaking about Krishna. So, serve
Yeah.
me. Right.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay. If there are no further discussion points, comments, questions, we will continue our discussion. Okay. There is one question. Naranarayan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. Prabhuji, one question is that, like, I am staying in a Gulf, and the condition is non-devotees. Okay, they are offering up food. So in this, like breakfast or food, or if I will deny them, if means other, if they will deny them, they will feel bad. They know these people are the these people are the only vegetarian. They knows. So they are offering the, okay, take these biscuits or take this sweets or something like this. So in this case, Prabhuji, we are taking it not to get the bad not to get opposite from them. So and then we are chanting the holy name, and then we are taking it, whether it is okay or not okay, Prabhuji. Hari.
Well, uh, if we are very consistent, generally, if we are very consistent in our things, we can be extremely nice to them and say a very extremely nice no, and tell that, uh, look, you are giving it to me in very nice mood, uh, but uh, but this has not been cooked by someone, um, you know who worships Krishna and not in that right mood. They may not have used proper ingredients to make it for the pleasure of Krishna. So generally, we do not accept. So you can give me fruits and milk, you can say, and you can accept fruits and milk. So rather than telling no, you can give them an alternative about what you can eat from their hands. Basically, what they expect is you should accept something from them. So rather than telling no, you can tell, you can please give me some fruits and milk, and you can mentally offer fruits and milk to Krishna and honor them rather than accepting cooked food. Um, what to speak of purchased food like biscuits, like that. One can do that. And see, it's not about telling no or yes. Many times it boils down to how you tell and how you consistently follow it. It should not happen that one time you eat and next time you say no. Then they will think last time you ate, this time you are not eating, like that. If we are following, we should consistently follow and tell a very soft, kind no. Rather than telling no, you can give them, or you can tell them what you can accept. You can give me some fruits, you can give me some milk, like that. So that way you can always carry a photograph, you can mentally offer and give, and then honor it. That is a better practice. And over a period of time, they will appreciate it also. When you are consistent following it, they will appreciate it. But if you are inconsistent, then they may not appreciate, like that. Anything else anyone would like to share? Yes. And okay, yes, Hari Prasad.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, if some of these qualities, if they're, let's say, if they're going against the institution principles, for example, this renunciation should not wear good clothes. So this looks little, because we are an institution as a preaching part of preaching, we do all this. So of course, then similarly we can expand to other principles also. So which may not be able to align with our institution. So so do we? How do we take it? What mode we take it? I mean, we're not able to follow it, but do we? How do we do that? I mean,
Like, see, you have to give specific examples what cannot be followed. It's not like every principle can be bent for institutional purposes. Okay, we should not dress very nicely. Yeah, for institutional purpose. I mean, even then you are going to wear white or saffron dhoti kurta only, and at the most you may wear neat and very nicely washed dhoti kurta. That is the most you can do actually. Beyond that, there is not much scope for uh, dressing nicely. So, I mean, if beyond that is not institutional need also. I mean, which institution expects you to do anything beyond that? Wear nicely washed and neat dhoti kurta. Beyond that, I mean, I don't think any temple expects you to do anything beyond that, and that is not against this principle of bhalana peribe. No, you should not dress. And what other principle do you think from an institutional setup sadhu cannot follow?
Another thing I see, let's say if we immaturely take up some big commitments of chanting without they're doing the basic needs of without caring for basic needs of devotees, that also is impractical, right? For
I didn't really understand what you meant.
then let's say the first one is sadhu should chant continuously always. So by seeing this,
Yeah, but
uh,
these principles are for, you know, the institutional brahmachari is strictly not under, is strictly not that kind of renunciant. We discussed this before, right? There are
mhm,
grahasthas and grahatyagi. So a grahatyagi is one who has given up uh, household and societal obligations because of developing bhava and prema. Hmm. So this instruction is specially meant for one who has taken up grahatyagi to for him to self-evaluate. Are you on that level? If you have prematurely taken it up, at least try to follow certain basic minimum things. But whether an institutional brahmachari, is he exactly a grihatyagi? Not really, in one sense. There because there is institutional dependence in one sense. Uh, Not that at some stage one should give it up. Uh, One can stay under the institution without being completely dependent on the institution for the, like, for example, one can develop detachment by, okay, whatever comes on my plate, I will eat. That is, in one sense, it is almost like Madhukari only. Hmm. So, if you understand the heart of the principle, even within an institution, one can follow those principles. But certain principles are not exactly as it is applicable for institutional brahmacharis because they are not like by qualification grihatyagis actually. So they are not expected to chant 24 hours like that. That should be their aspiration. But having said that, that kind of mm, and independence you can have if you do not take facilities from, if you are not dependent on the facilities of the institution, then you can afford to live that kind of a lifestyle. So not that not that we want to go against the institution, we will follow the institutional norms, but we don't become dependent on the facilities offered by the institution. Huh? Uh, so you can say grahastha. He earns his own money. He does not take any facility from the institution. He rather contributes to the institution financially also. So there is no financial dependence on the institution. So if as a renunciant also you become financially independent of the institution, but very much following the institutional norms, then you can certainly chant throughout the day. That's not a problem. But if you feel dependent on the institutional facilities, then which means you have probably not earned the uh, sort of qualification to chant 24 hours because you need lot of facilities, you need prasad on time, you need hot prasad. You can take North Indian prasad only 2 times a week. You need at least, though with those kind of needs, you need medical insurance, you need proper medical facilities and all that. If we have dependence on all these things, then certain institutional needs have to be fulfilled. But if you are not dependent on them, then yes, then you can chant throughout the day, do Madhukari and chant throughout the day. That's not a problem.
yes.
Okay, let's continue our discussion. Okay, we have another 50 minutes time. Let's see how far we can cover. We have seen 17 points. Let's see the 18th point. It is not proper for a renunciant to expect unasked for charity. So, which means this is the 18th principle. Do not expect charity. If it comes unasked, that is fine. Okay. So that's what he says. In the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Antya Leela, it's Prabhu kahe bala kaila chadila simmadware bhiksha vritti veshyara achar chatre yaita labha udara bharan anya kata nahi sukhe Krishna sankirtan. Hearing this news, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, this is about Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he has done very well by no longer standing at the Simhadwar gate. So, initially Raghunath Das Goswami used to accept the monthly money that his father used to send, and he used to host Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for a feast. Then later he understood that this is not good. Then he started going to Simhadwar on the gates of Jagannath temple, and he started begging, bhiksha. So such begging of alms resembles the behavior of a prostitute. So eventually he gave that up also. And when he gave that up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, hey, how come I am not seeing Raghunath at Simhadwar? And Swarup Damodar Goswami said, oh, because he thought it was not appropriate, so he gave that up also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am very happy because such begging of alms resembles the behavior of a prostitute. If one goes to the booth where free food is distributed and fills his belly with whatever he obtains, there is no chance of further unwanted talk, and one can very peacefully chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he would, then he started, because then once you stand there, then you will think that, oh, maybe he will give, or maybe he will not give, This is Veshyara Achar. This is the behavior of a prostitute. So this is not correct. So one should not put oneself in a position where one is expecting charity. This is very unfavorable. 20th principle. A renunciant should not construct big temples or residences. Do not construct big temples or residences. This is mostly, of course, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, all of them constructed big temples. But this was not for making money and making a money-making venture for that purpose. Again, this principle does not apply in an institutional setup because, of course, one should not make big temples and start, sort of calculating profits. If I make this and I will have so many shops, and through this so much revenue will come and all those things. When you construct big temples, it is for facilitating people to take shelter of Krishna. And one should also not do it at the cost of their own absorption in Krishna. That is what it means. By doing so, he becomes entangled in household activities. So, like that. He should meditate on the service of worshipping Govardhan Shila. Okay. He says 21st principle. Rather, be absorbed in worshipping their lordships rather than being absorbed in making big temples. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated, Eka kunja jala ara tulasi manjari सात्विक सेवाये शुद्ध भावे करी दुई दिक्के दुई पत्र मध्य कोमल मंजरी यही मत अष्ट मंजरी दिव्य श्रद्धा करी. For such worship, one needs a jug of water and a few flowers from a tulsi tree. Flowers here refers to manjari. This is the worship in complete goodness when performed in complete purity. With faith and love, you should offer 8 soft tulasi flowers. Komala manjari. When she is green in color, not that it has become very big and dry. Each with 2 tulsi leaves, one on each side of each. Simple worship. 1 jug of water and some tulsi manjaris and tulsi leaves. That's all. And then the 22nd principle, he says that devotees accept the sannyas order of life only in special situations. It is not always required. A Vaishnava born in a Brahmana's family can take such sannyas when he leaves home, but he should not accept the limbs that are averse to his devotional service. So, sannyas can be accepted only in special situations. So now we have to understand, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing when Gaudiya Vaishnavism had not yet been institutionalized. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur created Gaudiya Math. And then he introduced the sannyas as a means of preaching. So it was not traditional sannyas. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking about sannyas, he's talking about traditional sannyas. The traditional sannyas is not accepted by devotees. And nor is the sannyas that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur gave, Srila Prabhupada gave, those were not traditional Vedic sannyas. This is Vaishnava sannyas, which is more of actually a preaching ploy rather than the traditional sannyas. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling, sannyas can be accepted only under special circumstances by Vaishnavas, he is talking about a time when Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur had not yet started the Gaudiya Math and not yet started giving sannyas to his practitioners. So like that. A Vaishnava born in a Brahmana's family can means is allowed, but it's not mandatory. Can take such sannyas when he leaves home, but even if he takes sannyas, he should not accept the limbs that are averse to his devotional service. Regarding the characteristics of Swarup Damodar Prabhu, it is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Nischinte Krishna Bhaji Bhaita Karane Unmade Karila Teha Sanyasa Grahane Sanyasa Karila Shika Sutra Tyaga Rupa Yoga Patta Nanila Nama Haila Swarupa. He was very enthusiastic to worship Krishna without disturbance. Therefore, it was almost in madness that he accepted the sannyas order. Upon accepting sannyas, Purushottamacharya is Swarup Damodar Goswami's previous name. He followed the regulative principles by giving up his tuft of hair and sacred thread, but he did not accept the saffron colored dress. Also, he did not accept a sannyasi title but remained an Aishtika Brahmachari. He accepted sannyas, but certain things which were unfavorable for sannyas he did not accept. So he says, rather, he says, one may accept sannyas in the form of minimizing his needs. This is the kind of sannyas that is acceptable by Vaishnavas. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the following statement regarding the character of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Tabe mishra puratana eka duti dila, tehondui bahirvasa kopina karila, Sanatana kahe ami madhu kari kariba, brahmanera gare kena ekatra bhiksha laba. When Tapan Mishra gave Sanatana Goswami a dhoti, Sanatan immediately tore it in pieces to make 2 sets of outer cloth and underwear. Sanatan replied, I shall practice the process of madhukari. Why should I accept full meals in the house of a Brahmana? Then one may become attached to eating there, one may start liking the food there. So this is a kind of Sanatana Goswami did not accept traditional sannyas, but he accepted sannyas in mood, in the form of minimizing his needs. This is a very recommended form of Vaishnava sannyas. So, like that. The Lord's response is found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Lord said, Tina mudrar bota gai madhukari gras, dharmahani haya loka kare upahas. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to fine-tune Sanatana Goswami even more. So it is contradictory to practice madhukari and at the same time wear a valuable blanket. One loses his spiritual strength by doing this, and one will also become an object for jokes. So Chaitanya Sanatana Goswami's brother-in-law, I think, Shrikant, I think that's what was his name. So he gave him a very nice looking blanket. So please cover yourself at least. So he forced him to take that. Okay, so he accepted. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him, he started staring at the blanket in a very obvious way. Sanatana Goswami thought, okay, I have learnt my lesson. So he went and traded that blanket with another sadhu. And he took his stone quilt and accepted that. And then when he came in front of Sanatana Goswami, when he came in front of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated him. Good. I am very happy that you gave it up, because what will people think? That you are doing madhukari and wearing such an expensive blanket, it's like inappropriate. Then he says, regarding the association of a Vaishnava sannyasi, the character of Sri Madhavendra Puri is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Vishnu Mayava Sheloka Kuchoina Jane Sakala Jagata Baddha Mahatamo Gune. People were conditioned by the mode of ignorance and had lost all knowledge due to the influence of Vishnu Maya. Loka deki dukkha bhave Shri Madhava Puri Kedanahi Tilarda Sambhashayare Kari. Srila Madhavendra Puri was deeply pained by the godlessness of people and he found no one to speak to. Sanyasiras Taneva Karena Sambhashan Seha Apanare Matra Bale Narayan. Sometimes he would speak to the sannyasis, but to his dismay, he found that they claimed to be Narayan. Jnani Yogi Tapasvi Sannyasi Kyati Yara Kara Mukhe Nahi Dasya Mahima Prachara. Jnanis, yogis, tapasvis, and famous sannyasis spoke about the glories of serving the Supreme Lord. Yata adhyapaka sabha tarka seva khane, tara sabha krishnera vigraha nahi mane. All the teachers and professors were only interested in logic and argument. They refused to accept the spiritual form of Lord Krishna. Lokamad Brahmikena Kene Vaishnavade Kite Kotao Vaishnava Nama Nashuni Jagate. Srila Madhavendra Puri thought, why am I roaming amongst people searching for a Vaishnava? Wherever I go, I don't even hear the word Vaishnava. Ete Kesavana Bhala Esabas Esabaha Ite Vane Kanahe Avaishnavera Sahite. Therefore, he considered it better to stay in the forest where he did not have to speak with non-devotees. So, this is 24th principle. Renunciant should rather stay alone rather than associating with non-devotees and Mayavadis. Like that. 25th principle, he says, a Vaishnava sannyasi should give up the use of Mayavadi markings. He says, a Vaishnava sannyasi should give up Mayavadi markings. Of course, these were the days when one could accept such kind of sannyas from the Mayavadis, as we had, as when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing, Vaishnava sannyas had not yet, in one sense, like was not so prevalent. So he says, concerning the character of Sri Brahmananda Bharati, the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Brahmananda Pariya Chemruga Charmambara Tahade ki Prabhu Dukka Payela Antara. So Brahmananda Bharati, who was like a spiritual master of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came once wearing a deer skin. And this deer skin is not something which only the Mayavadis wore. But the Vaishnavas did not accept that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very unhappy seeing that. Okay, so like that. Then the 26th principle that he says, so regarding the pure Grihastha Vaishnavis, the lady devotees, the Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the procedure for seeing a sannyasi. Purvavata Prabhu Kaila Sabara Milan, Stri Sabha Dura Haite Kaila Prabhura Darshan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received them all, just as he had in previous years. The woman, however, saw the Lord from a distance. So, a renunciant should receive women from a distance. So then 27th principle, he says is giving up enjoyment mentality. A renunciant Vaishnava is prohibited from all kinds of enjoyment. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhu ka hai sannyasi ranahi tailadikar tahate sugandhi taila paramadhikhar. So this he was speaking to Jagadananda Pandit. The Lord replied, a sannyasi has no use for oil, especially perfumed oil such as this. Take it out immediately. A renunciant Vaishnava is forbidden from hearing and singing of a woman. Oh, this is the next principle. 28th principle. A renunciant is forbidden from hearing the singing of a woman. As described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. एक दिन प्रभु यमेश्वर तोटायाइते सेई काले देवदासी लागी लगाइते दोरे गाना शुनि प्रभुर हाइला आवेश स्त्री पुरुष के गायन जाने विशेष स्त्री गाय बलि गोविंद प्रभुर कैला कोले स्त्री नाम शुनि प्रभुर बाह्य स्त्री मशुनि प्रभुर बाह्य हाइला प्रभु कहे गोविंद आजी रखिला जीवन स्त्री परश हाइले अमर हाई तमरण. So this is a very interesting episode. One day, when the Lord was going to the temple of Yameshwara, a female singer began to sing in the Jagannath temple. Hearing the song from a distance, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately became ecstatic. He did not know whether it was a man or a woman singing. Just then Govinda caught the Lord in his arms and cried, "It is a woman singing." As soon as he heard the word woman, the Lord became externally conscious. He told, "My dear Govinda," he said, "you have saved my life. If I had touched the body of a woman, I would certainly have died." So he started running to embrace that personality who was singing such glories of the Supreme Lord. He was not in external consciousness. He did not realize if it was a man or a woman. So when Govinda stopped him, so he thanked Govinda. Okay. So then the next he is talking about bedding of a sannyasi, of a renunciant. Okay. What kind of bedding he can accept? So Chaitanya Charitamrita states, Kalara Sharalate Shayana Atikshinaha Kai Sahitenara Jagadananda Srijila Upai Sukshma Vastra Ani Gaurika Diya Rangaila Shimulira Tula Diya Taha Puraila Tuli Balisha Deki Prabhu Krodavishta Haila Govindere Kahi Sei Tuli Dura Kaila प्रभु काहे काटा एक अनह पाड़ीते जगदानंद चाहे आमाय विषय बुंजाइते सन्यासी मानुष आमार भूमिते शयन आमारे खाटा तुली बालिश मस्तक मुंडन स्वरूप गोसाई तबे सृजिला प्रकार कदलीर शुष्क पात्र अनिल अपार न के चिरी चिरी ताहा अति सूक्ष्म कैला प्रभुर बहिर्वास दुईते से सब भरीला एई मत दुई कैला ओढना पाढाने अंगीकार कैला प्रभु अनेक यतने. This is interesting. Jagadananda, again, the Lord was very thin and he would lay down to rest on the dry bark of a plant of plantain trees. That's where he would lie down. He would take a dried bark of a plantain tree or a banana tree and he would lie on that. But Jagadananda could not tolerate this. So he devised a remedy. So what did he do? he acquired some fine cloth and colored it with red oxide. He, he made it, saffron colored. Then he filled it with cotton from a shimuli tree. Hmm. It was filled with cotton. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the quilt and pillow, he was immediately very angry. The Lord asked Govinda to put aside the quilt and pillow. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You should bring a bedstead here for me to lie on." Sarcastic remark, of course. Hmm. Jagadananda wants me to enjoy material happiness. I am in the renounced order, and therefore I must lie on the floor. For me to use a bedstead, quilt, or pillow would be very shameful. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami devised another method. First, he secured a large quantity of dry banana leaves. He got a large quantity of dry banana leaves. He then tore the leaves into very fine fibers with his nails and filled two of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's outer garments with the fibers. In this way, Swarup Damodar made some bedding and a pillow. And after much endeavor by the devotees, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted them. Otherwise, he would not even accept that. Okay. Now, the next thing he says is renunciates food. A renunciant should accept very simple food. Okay. प्रभु कहे सबे केने पूरी रे कर रोष सहज धर्म कहते हो तारा की बात दोष यति हैया जिह्वा लांपट्य अत्यंत अन्याय यतिर धर्म प्राण रखिते आहार मात्र खाए. Very simple food and only to keep the body functional. Okay. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Why are all of you angry at Ramachandra Puri?" So Ramachandra Puri invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he wanted to find fault with him. So he fed him lot of food, and then eventually after he ate all of that, he accepted because Ramchandra Puri was on the level of his spiritual master. So he wanted to not displease him. So he accepted it. But Ramachandra Puri had other intentions. He wanted to find fault and criticize. So Ramachandra Puri said he criticized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for accepting so much food. And others became very angry at Ramachandra Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Why are you all angry at Ramachandra Puri? He is expounding the natural principles of sannyas life. Why are you accusing him? For a sannyasi to indulge in satisfying the tongue is a great offense. The duty of a sannyasi is to eat only as much as needed to keep the body and soul together. All the above mentioned items are accepted as the proper occupations of renunciate Vaishnavas." So, so now the next he is going to talk about. Next he is going to talk about proper occupations for Vaishnava householders. And renunciation. What kind of occupation is proper? That's the next topic. But before we get into that, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add, you can please go ahead. Okay. If there is none, then we will continue our discussion. Just give me a second. Let me see how are we doing with time and material. Okay. So next he says, now the proper occupations for all the Vaishnava householders and renunciants will be explained. There is no duty in the age of Kali other than chanting the holy names and mantras of Krishna. Hmm. So, first principle, proper occupations for both. Hmm. So, this is acceptable for both householders and renunciants both. First is always chant the holy names. Second, accept initiation into chanting. It is necessary for everyone to take initiation into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna mantra haite habe samsara mochana. Krishna nama haite pabe Krishnera charana. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. Nama vino kali kale nahi ara dharma. Sarva mantra sara nama e shastra marma. In this age of Kali, there is no religious principle other than the chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all Vedic hymns. This is the purport of all the scriptures. Krishna name ye ananda sindhu aswadana. Brahmananda tara age katodaka sama. Compared to the ocean of the transcendental bliss that is tasted by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the pleasure derived from impersonal Brahman is like the shallow water in a canal. Sada nama laibe yatha labete santosh, eita achara kare bhakti dharma posh. One should strictly follow the principle of always chanting the holy name, and one should be satisfied with whatever he gets easily. Such devotional behavior solidly maintains one's devotional service. Okay. So the always chant the holy names, accept initiation into chanting the holy names. And the third principle that he says here is do not over endeavor for maintenance. Jnana karma yoga dharme na he Krishna vasha. Krishna vasha hetu eka prema bhakti rasa. By following the paths of speculative knowledge, fruitive activity, or mystic yoga to control the senses, one cannot satisfy Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Unalloyed devotional service for devotional love for Krishna is the only cause of the Lord's satisfaction. Do not try to mix your practice with jnana, karma, and yoga. The proper procedure and proper instruction for accepting a spiritual master is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Proper procedure to accept a guru. What is the proper procedure to accept a guru? Kiba vipra kibanyasi shudra kene nai. Yei Krishna tattva veta sei guru hai. Raganuga marge tare bhaje yei jana. Sei jana pai vraje vrajendra nandana. Siddha dehe chinti kare tahani sevana. Saki bhave pai Radha Krishnera charana. So, whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the signs of Krishna. If one worships the Lord on the path of spontaneous love and goes to Vrindavan, he receives the shelter of Rajendra Nandan, the son of Nanda Maharaj. After thinking of Radha and Krishna and their pastimes for a long time, and after getting completely free from material contamination, one is transferred to the spiritual world. There, the devotee attains the opportunity to serve Radha and Krishna as one of the gopis. So one should accept a person as guru who is completely free of material contamination and who has great greed for serving Radha and Krishna. Sixth principle. Always associate with devotees. One needs to always associate with devotees. One should associate with affectionate devotees who are more advanced yet of the same temperament. Tajatiya ashaye nigdhe sadhu sanga swatovare. Okay. So this is the what kind of devotees. Okay. Same temperament, like-minded, affectionate, snigdhe, devotees, sadhu sanga, more advanced, swatovare. As explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shreyo madhye kona shreya jiveraha yasar Krishna bhakta sanga vina shreya nahi ar. The conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. And Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, out of all auspicious and beneficial activities, which is the best for the living entity? Ramananda Rai replied, the only auspicious activity is association with the devotees of Krishna. Therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, real Yuga Dharma is not Nama Sankirtan, but it is actually Vaishnava Seva. Because when the proper Vaishnava Seva is there, proper Vaishnava Sangha is there, automatically one gets the qualification and to perform everything else. So proper association is that which opens the door for all kinds of auspiciousness. Although a Vaishnava comes from a bona fide sampradaya, his association should be considered according to the Lord's statements in Chaitanya Charitamrita. प्रभु कहे कर्मी ज्ञानी दोई भक्तहीन भक्तिहीन तोमार संप्रदाय देखी से दुई छिन्न सबे एक गुण देखी तोमार संप्रदाय सत्य विग्रह करी ईश्वरे करह निश्चय. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, both the fruitive worker and the speculative philosopher are considered non-devotees. We see both elements present in your sampradaya. The only qualification that I see in your sampradaya is that you accept the form of the Lord truth. I think this is in the chapter where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conversation with the Tattvavadi sect of Tatvavadi sect of Madhva line, the Madhvites. So this is the next principle that he says, that avoid associating with other Sampradaya Vaishnavas who may have tinges of karma and jnana in their practice. This is a real danger for ISKCON in today's age, especially in India. This is my honest opinion. There is too much hearing and getting influenced from other Vaishnava Sampradayas, where whose practice or whose level of practice of devotional service may not be at the standard of, standard of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's definition of pure devotional service. Anyabhilashunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam. So this may not be the case. But indiscriminately, people read literatures from other sampradayas, and they accept principles which may not necessarily be on the level of pure devotional service. So this should be avoided. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly, he is having a conversation with the followers of Madhvacharya only, not Shankaracharya. He told them, कर्मी प्रभु कहे कर्मी ज्ञानी दुई भक्ति हीन, तोमार संप्रदाय देखी से दुई चिन्ह. Both the karmi and jnani are considered to be non-devotees. In your sampradaya, I am seeing both the elements present very strongly. You're talking about bhakti, but what bhakti? You're calling karma yoga as bhakti. This is not bhakti. Sabe eka guna dekhi tomara sampradaya. But in your sampradaya, I see one good quality. The only good quality that I see is Satya Vigraha Kari Ishware Karaha Nischay. The only qualification that I see in your sampradaya is that you accept the form of the Lord as truth. Otherwise, nothing. One should be careful. Then the ninth principle, he says, is one should not remain in a place where incompatible mixtures of mellows or contradictions in the conclusions of devotional service are presented. Don't stay in a place where rasabhas or apasiddhanta is present. Okay. Incompatible mixtures of mellows or contradictions in the conclusions. So rasabhas means, where incompatible rasas, wherever due to improper understanding of the siddhanta, they may, Nitai Gaur Radhe Sham, Bhaja Hare Krishna Hare Ram. So one thing is it is a concocted chant, but the second problem is the problem of rasabhas. Right? So the Chaitanya Charitamrita has the following statement: Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha Ararasa Bhasa Shunite Nahaya Prabhurchitya Ullasa. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was never pleased to hear books or verses opposed to the conclusive statements of devotional service. The Lord did not like hearing rasabhas, the overlapping of transcendental mellows. So this is very important. So then the 10th principle that he says is one should carefully try to cultivate qualities favorable for devotional service. One should carefully gather the good qualities needed for devotional service. The nature of a devotee is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahanubhavera chitter swabhava eihai pushpasama komala katina vajramai. This is the nature of the mind of an uncommon personality. Sometimes it is soft like a flower, but sometimes it is as hard as a thunderbolt. One should endeavor the favor qualities which are favorable for Krishna Bhakti. One should try to cultivate them. One should try to at least externally follow them. Okay. Just give me 1 second. A few more slides we will try to. So then, the 11th principle that he says, which are important for both. The welfare activities of a devotee are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahanta swabhava eitarite pamara nija karya nahita bhuyana yana taraghara. It is the general practice of all saintly people to deliver the fallen. Therefore, they go to people's houses, although they have no personal business there. The welfare activity of a Vaishnava is to deliver Krishna to the fallen. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lord gives an example of how a devotee should pledge. प्रभु कहे कह तुमी नाही किछु भय योग्य हैले करीब अयोग्य हैले नहीं. The Lord gave the Bhattacharya assurance that he could speak without fear, but added that if his statement was suitable, he would accept it, and if it were not, he would reject it. So, which means one should accept a Siddhantic point based on its merit. So which means if it stands the test of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, one accepts it. Otherwise, one rejects it. So then the 13th point he says is, the benefits of dealing affectionately with a devotee are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as follows. Prabhu kahe tomi Krishna bhakata pradhan tomakye ye priti kare sei bhagyavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, my dear Ramananda Rai, you are the foremost of all the devotees of Krishna. Therefore, whoever loves you is certainly a very fortunate person. Okay. One should try to develop affection towards devotee. Like that. Any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add. So these are the principles which are applicable for everyone. whether one is a renunciant or a householder, these principles are equally applicable to all of them. So first he described principles which a grihastha should learn, then principles for renunciants, and then now he's talking about principles which are equally applicable for householders and renunciants, like that. Anything anyone would like to share, ask, add before we wind up for the day? Okay, so thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. Okay, there is one hand up, Narnarayan too.
Prabhuji, we heard that from the Mataji's means woman we should not listen. But if she is devotees of the our Krishna ISKCON devotees, then we can hear, no, Prabhuji?
Yeah, this is for renunciants. Yeah, but one should not endeavor to hear, like for example, Yamuna Madi in every, she sings the Govindam prayers. Prabhupada literally heard that with tears in his eyes. But one should not. But the thing is, one should not hear the opposite sex, singing because of attraction for the sweet voice and things like that. That is not very favorable actually. Okay, so I think we will pause here. Thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. We will continue this discussion next week. And next week might probably be the last week of last session of Bhakti Aloka. We have about 53 slides. I think there is a good chance that we may complete Bhakti Aloka next week. Then after that, subsequently, I will inform you. As of now, we are thinking of starting a course called Krishna Smarana Spurti, where we will be discussing. So Krishna Smarana Spurti. Spurti means inspiration to remember Krishna by, after we discussed from Manasiksha, we had discussed many Ashtakams, Dashakams, Lalita Ashtakam, Radhika Ashtakam, Prajaraja Sutashtakam, Shri Govardhan Vasa Prarthana Dashakam, and these kind of things which were glorification of things, places, objects, people connected to Krishna. Devotees really felt very inspired. So they requested that we start a course just memorizing these Ashtakams so that it will help us meditate on Vrindavan, meditate on Krishna, meditate on Srimati Radharani and the associates of Krishna. So we decided that we will do it. So maybe some time after, I think hopefully next week will be the last Bhakti Aloka session, most likely. Then after that, then we will have a short break when we may not have any sessions on Wednesday for 2 or 3 weeks before we advertise the next course or the next. So then we will start this tentatively as of now for Wednesdays. This is what is planned. If there is a change or if there is no change, or you will get to know it very soon. But thank you all very much. So next week we will most likely meet for the last session of Bhakti Aloka, Krishna willing. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Pad ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai, Shri Bhakti Aloka ki jai, Shri Upadesha Amrita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.